All right, welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. And today we're going to dig deep into the Sunset Strip and we are going to rank Rat. And to help me do that is none other than Chris Kiebzak, who's always here for our hair band series. He was here for Poison, he was here for the last one we did, and he's here for this one.
Twisted Sister, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right. Welcome to glad to have you back, buddy. How you doing?
Glad to be here. Yeah, hopefully this is a long-lasting relationship. I have a good time. Been a good week. It was fun going through the Rat catalog again. So,
Yeah, so we're going to take you through it real quick and we're going to dig right in. So
good.
obviously Rat was huge along with Motley Crue. They were part of the Sunset Strip scene and were instrumental as one of the bands to help break it into prominence back way in the early 80s. Um, Rat did had a phenomenal run there, four consecutive platinum albums followed by a gold album and including Out of the Cellar, triple platinum, their biggest seller. And the unique thing about this whole process is all those albums feature the same exact lineup. So that was none other than Stephen Pearcy on vocals, Warren DeMartini on guitar, along with Robin Crosby, Bobby Blotzer on drums, and Juan Crochet on bass. So that
Yep.
lineup managed to stay together all the way until 1991. And man, they did made a lot of music in a short period of time. So they definitely
Yeah.
left us a lot to rank here. So let's go ahead and dig right in. What do you got for? We got seven albums in all. We're going to start
Yep.
off with the number seven for you.
All right. Well, like you were saying, I mean, I guess as far as hair bands go and ones that put out more than two or three records, the Rat has to be one of the most consistent. Like their catalog is very consistent. And as you'll see, even as the albums, most of them grew as the newer albums came out, it still felt like Rat. Like you still knew you were listening to Rat. That being said, the one album for me that sticks out like a sore thumb, as I'm sure it does for a lot, is self-titled, which is weird because as we all know, the first Rat release ever was that self-titled EP. So I'm sure did that cause some confusion for, you being older and stuff and being around for that era when that when you heard that a self-titled record was coming out for Rat, did it raise questions about the first album?
No, because everybody remembers the other thing was just an EP. This was a
Right,
full length album, and it was
right,
coming out on Portrait. And Rat had just actually it was weird. They were on the Poison tour in '99, and the
yeah,
weird thing was Great White was also on that bill. And both bands had albums coming out the same day on Portrait Records. That was a relaunch there with John Kalodner. He brought the label back to life, as obviously Portrait hadn't been around in a while. He
right,
brought the label back under a Sony catalog label there, and both bands released albums on the same day. But the weird thing was the tour started 2 months before the album even came out, so that kind of hurt them in that aspect because
right,
you really want to have the album out before you start touring to help promote it and push it. So it's hard to tell everybody you got a new album coming out and make it a couple months later they're still going to remember it when it's summertime and they're going to multiple shows. They forget all about it by the time it comes out. So
right,
I think that was like the kiss of death. Although Great White proved the opposite, their album was just so great that it sold good and stood out really well. But the Rad album, unfortunately, um, it seemed like they decided to go more grungy. This
Well,
album
yeah,
is definitely more grungy than, and you could explain your take on
and
why you.
grungy is a good way to put it. Also bluesy. I feel like a lot of the bands, I feel like they sort of harken back to after the last album before this, where Mr. Big, Extreme. It was like this bluesy yet grunge and sort of downplodding records. I do think on this album though, um, "It Ain't Easy" is one of the best ballads to come out of the hair metal genre, in my opinion. Because as we all know, Rat really wasn't known for ballads. Um, there's one or two on the earlier records, and not even basically one. But on this one, I think it worked really well. I think it's definitely the highlight of the album. The other one, like So Good, So Fine, there's a couple decent tracks on that record. I think the ballad's great, but obviously, if you're going to put all the Rat songs together and shuffle them, if for non-huge fans, if you put that album on, everyone's going to say, "Well, who's that?" I think that it just sort of took away from their structure as Rat and how they sound and are taken. But again, it was a really good output for that era in 1999, and I do think again the ballad "It Ain't Easy" one of my favorite songs in the Rat catalog. But as a whole, definitely number seven for me and at the bottom of the pack for sure.
All right, so at the bottom of the pack for me is a different album, and it's the last one they released. Infestation came
Oh
out in
wow, that's surprising.
2010. Yeah, I don't know. I just there's not a lot on here that really to me stands out from the rest. Like the only song that stands out for me is "Best of Me," which is awesome. I love this song.
Yeah,
That's
it's a good
one of
song.
their career highlights, really, especially a comeback. But to me, the rest of the album, it's just, I like the arcade stuff better. I mean, there's so much more I like better than Infestation. It's not that it's bad, mind you. It's just that the songs don't reach out and grab you like traditional Rat songs do. You listen to that first three, four albums, five albums, man, those songs reach out and grab you. The choruses, they have you singing along. There's nothing that really has me singing along on an Infestation except for Best of Me.
I'm
So
actually surprised because I feel like all those songs, if you like, for me, it was if you liked one of them, you love all of them. And it's surprising that you sort of can put that song as different than the rest of the album. But I do understand what you're saying. Plus, I mean, after all these years of them not releasing material, you were probably expecting something a little different or more unique.
yeah, I was hoping for better than Rat 99. So unfortunately we didn't get that. Not s- and that, and that's not to
Well, see,
say
I feel complete opposite. I thought it was miles better and different than 99, but I understand how you would lump those together a little bit.
yeah, because those are the weaker of the two of the whole catalog in my book. So what do you got for number 6?
All right, for number six, might be surprising. I have Dancing Undercover.
Wow.
Yeah. When I started sitting down and really revisiting everything and listening to the B cuts and stuff that I, may or may not have on playlists that I don't listen to all the time. So it's hard, it's in this day and age when you're going to work or you're doing stuff around the house, you're not always putting in CDs and stuff. You got on playlists and stuff like that. So I was able to go through. Dancing Undercover probably has the least amount of songs that I love compared to the other records besides You're at 99. Um, I think Body Talk is great. Dance is a good song. I love Take a Chance, I think is phenomenal. And Looking for Love, I think is an extremely underrated song. Other than those tracks, I'm just not a huge fan of the production or the vibe of that record because that came out in what, 86, right? It was their third album. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit too poppy when you're listening to them in chronological order. It just sort of felt a little lighter, especially than the first two. So yeah, Dancing Undercover. I thought it would have rated higher for me too, but after sitting down and really ranking them and putting thought into it, yeah, it's definitely got to be right under there at number six for me.
All right. And I already gave away my number 6 when I mentioned Rat 99,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we pretty much talked about that. It's just to me it's better. I got it a little bit ranked better than you only because um couple songs I feel on this one are better. I really love "Live for Today." That was one of the few songs they played when got to see a full headlining set of them. They played that one and "Over the Edge," and I think that's kind of where the album for me, "Over the Edge." They build that up as the big song from the album, the first single released. They were playing it during the Poison tour, but for me, that song really doesn't do anything. It's just there. "Live for Today" is a little bit more catchier. Um, might be a little bit more partial to it because Jack Russell actually helped write that song with
yeah,
them. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, "It Ain't Easy" is definitely one of the highlights in that one.
yeah.
I wouldn't actually call it a ballad per se, but it's definitely another one of those catchy songs. Sounds like it could have been written as far back as the Dancing Undercover album. It kind of fits that mode, kind of
Yeah.
in a way. "We
I
Don't
I love the
Belong."
I love the intro to that song and the verses. The choruses, yeah, are a little more poppier and upbeat for sure.
Yep. And then "We Don't Belong" is another highlight on the album. That one was co-written with Marty Fredrickson, who also co-wrote "Gave Up, Given Up," which that song is okay. Nothing to write home about. But yeah, definitely, they saw that direction shift in music it kinda hurt them at that point because, rock was think about it though, that Poison tour, that was the first tour where this kind of music was making a
Yeah,
comeback. I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
so in technicality, that they weren't really, doing the type of music that, they followed up with on Infestation sounds closer to Rat than this album does.
Well, let's not forget, I mean, the album before self-titled was 9 years previous, right?
It feels like 20 years apart though in a way,
I mean, yeah, it
you
does.
know?
Musically, absolutely. I mean, 9
Yeah.
years is a long time,
Yeah.
for a band to not put out music and then come out. I feel like if Infestation came out in '99, you would love that record because of just the how it where it came in the pattern of their catalog. You know what I mean?
Well, for me, I don't like an album per se, depending on when it came out. I could care less when it comes out. I like it as if it's got songs I like, I'm going to like it. If it doesn't, I
Right.
don't. And that's basically how I rate things. I rate it on how good songs are, how good the music is. You could have a special guest star on every album, every song on the album. Doesn't mean it's going to be good.
No, absolutely. No, 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 and I'm just saying Infestation seems more towards the Rat catalog than '99 was.
And I totally agree. I just like 99 better. That's all.
Yeah,
That
no, I
that's
get
the
it.
only
I
that's the
get it.
only thing. So, all right, let's move on to number. We're going down to five already. Wow.
5, yeah, I know, quick. So number 5, I have Reach for the Sky. Um, yeah, what that was '88. That was the last Beau Hill produced album too, correct? To
Yep.
my yeah.
Good call. Yep.
Um, yeah, it's got I love chain reaction with that double bass and it's really that intro is really heavy. I love that. Obviously Way Cool Jr. But the only other song I really love on that record is Bottom Line. Like to me, those 3 songs are incredible, but where the rest of the album sits in the duration of their catalog for me, just for some reason, I thought that one would be higher for me too, but at only 4 songs that I really like on the record, it's got to
Hmm.
sit at 5.
Okay. And that's the first agreement we have here. I get the same.
There you go. Really? Yeah, that's surprising.
No, Reach for the Sky is definitely, out of the five albums that were recorded with the original lineup,
Yeah.
it's definitely the weakest of the five, and that's probably why one of the reasons why Bo Hill got sacked. Even though it was another platinum album, it
Yeah.
really got pushed to platinum due to Way Cool Jr., which to me isn't even probably in the top 15 of Rat songs. It's a good song. It's just not a great Rat song in my book.
Right.
Everybody loves that song, though. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I
that's
like that song a lot. A little overplayed, but I like it a
yeah,
lot.
overplayed. Definitely a good way to put it. I'd say the highlights of the album for me are no doubt the opener, City to City, which I got to see him do live once. That
Oh, you
was
did?
cool.
On that tour or
'07, they opened for Poison. They were on that tour. They played it in the early part of the tour, then they dropped it. But yeah, that was awesome.
I think I was at that show with
Well, that
you,
was
right?
in Big Flats. No, you weren't.
Oh,
Well, you
okay.
weren't
No,
with
I
us.
wasn't
No.
then. Yeah.
But that was just great to see it because I never got to see that tour. Never came here. Matter of fact, Rat went a long time without playing Buffalo. They played it for Dancing Undercover with Poison. That was when Poison first came out. And
Right.
then Rat never made it back until that way many, many years down the road. They never came back. Sadly, I think it was when they came back with Poison at Darien in like '07, I think. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyhow, City to City is the highlight of the album, along with to me, obviously, I Want a Woman. That was good. He actually played that this past year, summer. I seen Piercy. He
Oh,
played that
cool.
one solo. Chain Reaction, like you mentioned, that's a good song. What's It Gonna Be? That's another cool song. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
got
a good
some
one.
really good songs on the album. Just not as many as the other albums that we're going to be discussing. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right. And what you got for number four?
All right. Number 4 is Infestation. The 2010, I guess, reunion record for what you would call it. But I thought production wise, it's the heaviest Rat album. I mean, that thing is produced so well and so sonically great from a recording aspect that the songs that aren't even the greatest or the better songs on the album come off really good to me and still sound like Rat. The only negative thing about that album for me was there's some throwback riffs and stuff that sound like other songs in their catalog, which I think is what they were going for. But I mean, some of the ones that I have written down for the oh, and don't forget Carlos Cavazo is on this record too.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Eat Me Up Alive, I think is great. Last Call is one of my favorite Rat songs in their catalog. I know you mentioned that there wasn't too many singing choruses, but I think that one is one that really pulled me in with the chorus. As Good as It Gets is a good song. And I have Lost Weekend and Look Out Below as the, 4 or 5 standout tracks on the record. Um, I think out of all the hair metal bands that came out with a record much later in the mid to late 2000s, this one by far is the best. I mean, put this up against Hollyweird and tell me that it's not a great record. You know what I mean? Um,
Put
I
anything next
real
to Hollywood would be a great
That's
record
true. But
almost.
I mean, there was some bands that put out some decent output in the late 2000s or mid 2000s. I thought Great White had a couple good ones. Dokken put out a couple good albums. Um, but yeah, for some reason, Infestation and Me really came off as like a reunion record. You knew it was Rat right from the beginning. It had the hooks and the melody and the catchy choruses for me, anyways. And that's why I put that a lot higher up than a lot of people would expect from me. But yeah, Infestation's my number 4. What do you got
All
for
right.
number 3? Or what do you got? You're at 4 now.
Yep, I got Invasion of Your Privacy.
Okay. Yep.
Second album they released. It went double platinum. Uh, this album obviously really sold. They didn't get a lot of airplay on this album, believe it or not. Lay It Down and You're in Love were the two singles and two big videos on MTV. And Lay It Down is their only other hit other than Round and Round to crack the top 40, and it only made number 40
Yeah.
on the singles charts. But oddly enough, you know, a couple of the big songs that they did in concert back in the day that went over pretty good were You Should Know by Now. Yeah, that was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And Never Use Love, another one.
Yeah. Those are two very underrated songs in their catalog, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was the big sing along. Piercy used to get them going with You Should Know by Now, which was pretty cool. Um, classic rat songs, three to 3.5 minutes. Um, Traditional, Lay It Down has that blistering riff that, is very recognizable as soon as you hear it. You're in Love, that big beginning bombastic
Yeah.
opening. Bobby Blotzer pounding away on the drums, standing out there. Um, but you know, definitely the fourth best album on the catalog. Three of them are better than it, so that's where I stand with Invasion of Your Privacy.
Gotcha. Well, we were close because my number 3 is Invasion of Your Privacy. Um,
Hmm.
so we were close on there. Think it I think it had a more crunchier sound than the previous albums, in my opinion. That being said, the songs, obviously, the other two I'm going to mention coming up here, I feel are much stronger song-wise, but I dug the production a lot. Obviously, like you said, You're in Love, crushing song, Lay It Down, obviously. As overplayed as these songs are for Rat fans that try to go and see them as much as they can, those songs still hold up really, really well especially when you listen to the studio versions. What else did I love on there? You didn't mention Got Me on the Line. I don't know if you like that song, but I'm a big fan of that song, always have been. And Between the Eyes, I think, is a banger that people don't talk about too much. But
Okay.
yeah, I think that album in general, definitely weaker than the next two I have coming up here, but I think obviously better than Infestation, and I think better than Dancing Undercover by a long shot. So
All right. So my number three is going to be the syrupy, pop laden album that was produced by Desmond Child, and that's none other than Detonator.
that night.
Detonator. Yep. And that's why it has that super glossiness to it.
Yes.
which is not a bad thing. It's the third best Red album, so I'm not taking away anything of it. It's weird how, that just goes to show you, even though it came out in 1990, and it was a solid album, very solid. I mean, it got airplay. Yeah, and that's probably the telling thing of this whole beginning of the end thing for the hair metal. Even though it was only 1990, already we see Rat not going platinum, and something the alarm should have gone off as early as then that there were problems with this music business. For an album of this magnitude, with the catchiness of the songs on this album, especially when this album is it's catchier than Invasion, it's catchier than Reach for the Sky. It's a better album than both of them. Yet here we are, and it only went gold.
Yeah.
I don't know why it only went gold. I really don't understand it myself. It even has Diane Warren on here writing a song. I mean, it's got the song doctor himself, Desmond Child, not only produced it, but he also wrote over half the album.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
so I mean, it's just pretty much every song. Yeah, it's just crazy that this album didn't fare well. Should have fared better than it did by
Well,
a
do you
mile.
do you think that because obviously it fits so well with the other three to start off their career, but do you think that there's like a reason behind like were people just not flocking out to the store? It wasn't as easy as it is today to go on Spotify and listen to a new song or a new record. Were people hair metal fans just sort of dying by the hundreds at that point?
Yeah, maybe they went too pop. Maybe they should have kept it a little bit more harder edged.
I
Maybe.
think there's a lot of edge there, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but a lot of people felt that it was more sugar coated than anything when you bring in. It's even says a band gravitated towards a more glam metal sound compared to
Yeah,
their previous albums.
sure.
So but we'll talk real quick about a few of the highlights. Obviously, Shame, Shame, Shame. I don't know why it needed the intro to Shame, 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 but
Yeah,
that's
yeah, totally
another
get it. Yeah,
story there in itself. But the big song here that pretty much got the main airplay and MTV thing was "Loving You Is a Dirty Job," which is one of those songs they still play today, or Piercy still plays today in his solo set. But the two songs on here that really, for me, I really enjoy are similar songs, and that would be "One Step Away" and "Giving Yourself Away." Those two songs somehow they almost seem like you can get them mixed up so easily. Those are more, I would say, ballads than anything Rat has ever done, and yet people there's still talk about yeah, those are the two songs that, they consider "Giving Yourself Away," one of Rat's lone power ballads, but I would say "One Step Away" is a little bit harder, which is probably why they don't, but great stuff here. Heads I win, tails you lose. Great song.
yeah, great song.
Um, once hard time. That's another good song. I really like it. It's a fast paced, heavy song. Warren D. Martini cranking it down there.
Yeah,
Um, one of the things I've noticed too was on this album, Robin Crosby, the King himself. He didn't have a lot of writing credits on it, and he did on all the earlier albums up to this point. So I don't know, exactly what was going on at that point.
yeah,
Um, but he co-wrote "Can't Wait on Love," and where's the other one I was looking at that he mentioned "All or Nothing." So I mean, he wrote two of the more weaker songs on the album, and
yeah,
he had a bigger influence on the earlier Rat albums, up to this point. So you could tell something was going on there when he wasn't as involved as he
right.
usually was, and I think that a lot of it had to do with Desmond Child being there. I really do. I think that he pretty much ran the show with Piercy, and then Warren pretty much co-wrote almost every song on the album as well too. So it looks like so those three were the main ones that seemed like they were all probably the record company had something to do with it. I would assume.
Yeah,
A lot of times, you're kind of stuck with what the record company wants, even if you've had four successful platinum albums in a row.
yeah, for sure.
So there we go. That's my number three with Detonator.
My number two is Detonator. So, I mean, we covered a lot of it, but again, as you know, like the Desmond Child era of music is where a lot of my favorite records from all these bands come from. Aerosmith, Kiss, even Alice Cooper. The Desmond Child era, for some reason, hit me really hard. I think it was the perfect mix between what the bands were doing, whether it be metal or rock, and then Desmond came in and sort of tightened it all up. And I really, really love the songwriting that Desmond Child has done for every band he's worked with. And I mean, you can definitely tell when he's not there um, on bands' records. Aerosmith, I know some of your least favorite Aerosmith albums might be the Desmond Child stuff where he was writing with them, but I think that those again, I was younger, so when I started listening to this kind of music, those albums are what hit me hard. Trash, um, what why even I mean, let's look at how early Desmond started writing with bands with I Was Made for Loving You. I mean, as much as I hate that song, I still love that song. You know what I mean? It still has that vibe. So as far as Detonator, yeah, I almost put Detonator as number one. But like you said, it's a little more poppier, and basically the first album to feature two or any ballad, really. I mean, because you're that's what I was going to mention is like there are pretty much two ballads on this record, and before that, there was nothing even close to a power ballad in Ratt's catalog.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, hard. I think you mentioned "Hard Time." That's a great song, very underrated. I'm assuming they never played it live, or at least that you've seen.
Not that I say no.
Um, All or Nothing's a great song, and Can't Wait on Love. I know you mentioned that, but Can't Wait on Love. I love that the intro to that with the chorus and how that all blends in. So yeah, Detonator is my number two. It was close to being number one, but it just has a little bit too much pop element for me.
Okay. All right. And my number two is going to take us to none other than, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it can't be Out of the Cellar,
Nope,
right?
it's Dancing
It's
Undercover.
Dancing Undercover. Yeah, I figured. Yeah, that's surprising you have that so far up.
No, that's the first tour I seen by Rat, and I really loved it. And the album has a grittiness to it. That's why I really appreciate it. Doesn't have that slick polishing thing, like unlike the other albums. That's
Yeah,
why it stands out pretty good for me because it's got that more gritty street sense type album. Songs like Enough is Enough and Seventh Avenue and Slip of the Lip, Drive Me Crazy. Just a great album, and and that's without even mentioning the probably the best song on the album, which was the same song that they opened up the Dancing Undercover tour with, which was Looking for Love.
I was
Great,
gonna
great
say
song.
that's one of my favorites on the record too. Yeah, I was hoping I didn't know they opened the tour with that though. That's great.
Yep, and they opened the tour with that one. Piercy came out, and man, that was awesome. And then Poison opened the whole shebang. That was who would have thought that the roles would be reversed years on down the road there. That's
Oh yeah.
just odd how that all worked out. But for the most part, just this one good lover, just a great album from top to bottom. There really isn't a weak track on the album, unlike a couple of their albums. I would say just two of their albums are solid with no weak tracks. This one, and of course, the one that I'm going to talk about in a moment here once we're on that one. But, the other albums, there's a song here, a song there. It could be Infestation, which would have every song except for one that was good. But self titled, there's a lot of songs that I really care less about, you know. But this one here, every song I really appreciate. And, Dance and Body Talk were the two big radio hits, but even those are pretty much they're all on an even par for me. I mean, like I said, Looking for Love stands out, One Good Lover. It's just a solid album for me. It's hard to really pick other than that. It's really hard to pick, where they would all fall if you had to say pick each song from your best to your worst because they're all like right neck and neck. That's why I like it so much.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right, so that's going to take us down to number one. What do you got?
Number one, I have the triple platinum first Rat record, in Out of the Cellar. Uh, Again, like I said, Detonator for some reason really hold like I really had a hard time deciding what I like better. I listened those are the two records I listened to from front to back like twice when we decided we were going to do Rat because I really didn't know which one was going to be my number one or number two. But Out of the Cellar beats it by a hair because of the grittiness, um, the production value that's really it's slim pickings, but it sounds so great. It's like it doesn't like you keep mentioning about how some of these records just seemed really like waxed and clean. Um, Obviously, Out of the Cellar does not have that. It's really raw. It could have been recorded in a garage with the right equipment. There's no like fabricating the record. Every song is amazing. I think even She Wants Money is probably one of my favorite songs on the record, which is, I guess, a B-side, sort of. But lack of communication, Back for More, I'm Insane. I mean, that record start to finish. And I think that's exactly how I feel. What you said about the last one for you was that every song is almost neck and neck. It just
Hmm.
keeps getting like not even better or better, but just more consistent. You know what I mean? And the whole record is just consistent from top to bottom to me. So for me, there's no denying that the first one is by far the best.
Yep, and I'm totally in agreement there. Obviously, I'd say the best song for me on the album is probably "You're in Trouble." Just love that song. That
Oh
that
yeah,
song
great song.
stands out, heads and shoulders above pretty much every song on the album. And "Back for More," that's another song you never get sick of hearing it, even though they play it all the time in concert and everything. That's one you definitely want to hear. "Back for More" is a classic. Lack of communication. Some of the lesser heard songs like "Scene of the Crime" and "In Your
Yeah, crime.
Direction," "The
Yeah.
Morning After." I mean, just a great overall solid experience there. "I'm Insane." That's another one that really doesn't get a lot of just due there. "She
It's
Wants
played.
Money." I like how you
It
mentioned it. Hmm.
That is what song did you just mention? I'm Insane.
Yeah.
That's played a lot, isn't it? Between
No,
Piercy and Rat, no?
no, no, they don't play it that much. Now he's doing the 40th anniversary of this album, so he is playing the whole album in its
Yeah,
entirety, I
which
guess.
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what he should have been. But that's one thing. "You're in Trouble." He never plays. So if you get a chance to see him out on this tour this year, definitely, I would highly advise it if you get a chance. You're probably gonna have to travel to see it, but it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
And it's probably gonna be the last. There was last year he was talking during a lot of interviews, saying that this tour in 2024, maybe some touring in 2025, and he plans on laying it down and resting and retiring from touring. So he's not going to be doing it a lot longer. So enjoy it while you can. He's
I,
really seems
I,
he's living it up right now, enjoying it for everything that's out there for the last time.
his last couple solo albums were amazing. Like if some of those songs are on that song, I'm a Rat is probably my favorite rat related thing in 20 years. I love that song. I think that easily should have been a Rat song. What a great song. Also, real quick, before we end the Rat discussion, though, Nobody Rides for Free is my number one Rat song without question. How did that never actually fall on a record? Besides the bell stuff. How is that song not on a record?
Yeah, that's on the greatest hits, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the greatest hits, and it's obviously on the soundtrack for that movie. But I mean, is that one of your when they started playing that again on that Poison tour when we went and seen them? I think was the first year they started really playing it again. That's a great song. I think Piercy plays it live too now.
Yeah, he'll slip in some of those early ones from the EP. Sometimes like "You Think You're Tough."
Yeah,
He'll slip in "Nobody Rides for Free." And that's the problem with a Piercy solo show. He doesn't really he tries to fit in as much as he can, but he doesn't really have time for Arcade, which sucks because
I was gonna say
there's a
that's
lot
the
of good songs that
yeah.
Arcade has that he can't even fit into the set list because he's got all the Rat stuff to choose from and all these albums.
Well, what's crazy about Arcade is like obviously through Metal Sludge and the forums and stuff, I've heard the name, but up until like not until like 15 years ago, when me and you were hanging out and going to shows all the time, have I did I really discover what a catalog that band had? Arcade.
Yeah, they only really have two albums out. I mean, the other albums they put out were more like unreleased material
demos.
and
Yeah, but
other
even that stuff's amazing.
yeah, yeah, and alternate versions of some of their songs and live stuff. But um, yeah, those first two, the first Arcade is no doubt, and I told Piercy this one time when I interviewed him. That's his best album that he ever made.
Yeah,
He
I'd agree with
really
that.
was thankful for the comments. He was
What year was that first?
93.
93, okay.
And of course, Arcade features Fred Coury on drums,
Yep.
and Frankie Wilczek was on guitar, and Johnny Angel, Buffalo connection there, actually started in the band and wrote some of the material on that first Arcade, but he never recorded on it. So
You've seen Piercy play a couple arcade songs over the years, haven't you?
no, he never plays Arcade. Well, I seen Arcade twice, but
Yeah,
that
right.
was the only time. That just he never solo shows. He'll play Dancing with Angels once in a while and slip in some others, but for the most part, he tries to keep it with Ratt. And I remember he did that Priest cover that time.
Oh, yeah. What
Yeah,
song
so
was that? I remember that.
but he's always mixing things in. You know, but other than that, so that there we have it. There's our Rat ranking, and there's not a lot to rank there, so definitely we encourage the fans to list your favorites. Tell us. Are we crazy? But I don't think we're far. The two albums that I
No.
picked on the bottom are pretty much what mostly everybody will pick, and you picked one of those two as the weaker ones too. So and I think a lot of people are going to agree with our number one too. So we
Yeah.
kind of fell in a good, which is good because I had a feeling we weren't going to be exact perfect. We had number five the
Well,
same.
I put Dancing Undercover pretty low too, but I do feel that way, so a bunch of people will probably disagree with that, but, yeah, I think we're right in there with our choices, though. And, 7 albums isn't anything to shake your head at. I mean, look at Twisted Sister and Poison that we just did.
Yeah.
Like, that 7 albums is a decent amount of albums for a hair metal band, I feel. I mean, it's not as much as Dokken or Great White, but it's up there.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot more. And then some of these bands haven't made an album in a really long time.
And I will say, especially compared to Twisted Sister and Poison that we already did, this is the most consistent catalog.
Oh yeah,
It really is. There's one album that we feel may have been able to fit under a different band moniker, but every single record sounds like a Rat album, besides 99, in my opinion.
right.
So,
All right, so there you have it. So leave those comments and let us know how we did.
yep. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
buddy. We'll see you on the next one.